Good day, everyone. Again, this is Teacher Jana, and we're back again for another exciting and meaningful lesson. Today, we are going to discuss another very important part of quantitative research. Our lesson for today is entitled The Sampling Procedure and the Sample. Before we start, I want you to think about something. Imagine that our school has 1,500 grade 12 students, and you want to know what college courses they prefer. Do you think you need to ask all 1,500 students? Possible naman, pero think about it. Would that be practical? Imagine yourselves going room to room and asking 1,500 students to answer your questionnaire. Ang dami, di ba? That's exactly why researchers use sampling. Instead of studying everyone, we select a smaller group that can provide information about the larger group. So by the end of this lesson, I want you to understand not only what a sample is, but also how researchers properly select their participants. Before we proceed, let's look at our learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do several things. First, you should be able to define population, sample, sampling, and sampling procedure. Second, you should be able to differentiate probability sampling from non-probability sampling. Third, you should be able to explain the different sampling techniques used in quantitative research. Fourth, you should be able to describe an appropriate sampling procedure for a quantitative study. And most importantly, you should be able to look at an actual research situation and say, which sampling technique should I use? Finally, you should be able to write a proper description of your population, sample size, and sampling procedure in your research paper. Alright, so looking at these objectives, what do you think is the main question we are trying to answer? That is, how do we choose our respondents? Who will participate? How many will participate? And how will we choose them? Let's begin with a situation. Suppose your school has 1,500 grade 12 students and you want to determine their preferred college courses. Now, I want you to think, would you interview all 1,500 students? Or would you select only a portion of them? And if you select only a portion, here's the important question. How will you decide who will participate? If you simply say, I'll choose whoever I want, is that a good research procedure? No, because there could be bias. For example, what if I only choose my friends? My results might show that most students prefer the courses my friends prefer, but that may not represent the entire grade 12 population. So research requires a systematic way of selecting participants, and that brings us to our first important term, which is population. So let's start with the population. A population is the complete group of individuals, objects, or events that share a common characteristic and are the focus of a research study. In simple words, kapag sinabi nating population, ito ang buong group na gusto nating pag-aralan. Hindi ibig sabihin na population automatically means the entire country or millions of people. It depends on your research. For example, if my research is about the study habits of grade 12 students in our school, who is my population? The answer is all grade 12 students in the school. Okay, so remember this simple idea. Population is equal to the entire group being studied. Okay, so kapag tinanong kayo, who are the people included in your study, that answer usually helps you identify your population. Now let us apply the definition. The researcher wants to study the study habits of all grade 12 students in ABC Senior High School. If there are 850 grade 12 students, then how many students belong to the population? That is 850. So we can say population is equal to 850 grade 12 students. Notice something important. We are not saying the researcher will necessarily ask all 850 students to answer the questionnaire. The 850 is simply the entire group that the researcher wants to study. Okay, so let's say if I choose 100 students from the 850, are those 100 the population? No, they are the sample. Okay, so let's now define sample. A sample is a smaller group selected from the population to participate in the research study. Kung ang population ay buong group, ang sample naman ay isang smaller group taken from that population. The important word here is representative. The sample should accurately represent the characteristics of the population so that the findings can be generalized. Okay, so for example, suppose our population is 850 grade 12 students. If we select 265 students to participate, those 265 students are our sample. Okay? Pero remember, hindi enough na basta may sample tayo. We need to make sure that the way we select the sample is appropriate. Because if the sample does not properly represent the population, our findings may not accurately describe the population. So here's an easy way to remember it. Okay, population, ibig sabihin kabuuan. Okay, population equals whole. Sample equals part. Parang isang buong pizza lang yan. So the whole pizza is the population. So if you take some slices, those selected slices represent your sample. Okay, now the next question is, how do we select that sample? So that's where sampling comes in. Sampling is the process of selecting participants from the population for inclusion in a research study. So if population tells us whole group and sample tells us selected group, sampling tells us how we select the group. Okay, so for example, let's say there are hundreds of customers in a supermarket. Instead of asking every single customer, the manager selects 300 customers using a specific method. That process of selecting those 300 customers is called sampling. Okay, so if I say I selected 200 students from 1,000 students to participate in my study, what am I describing? Okay, that is sampling. So how those customers are selected matters. So if the manager only asks customers who are standing near the entrance, that may be different from using a random selection method. So sampling is not simply getting respondents. It is a planned process of selecting respondents. Okay, and when we explain exactly how that selection was done, we call it the sampling procedure. Now we have the term sampling procedure. A sampling procedure is the step-by-step process used by the researcher to identify, select, and recruit participants. Notice the phrase step-by-step process. So sampling is the general process of selecting participants, while sampling procedure explains exactly how you did it. So for example, first, the researcher obtains the official list of grade 12 students. Second, each student is assigned a number. Third, the researcher uses a random number generator. Fourth, the required number of respondents is selected. That entire sequence is the sampling procedure. Okay, so if I only write we use random sampling, is that already a complete sampling procedure? No, because we still need to explain how the random sampling was actually carried out. Now let's walk through this example. Step 1. The researcher obtains the official list of grade 12 students. So why do you think we need the official list? That is, in order to know who belongs to the population, to have a complete list. Okay, so step 2, each student is assigned a number. Why? Because we need a way to identify each individual during random selection. Step 3, we use a random number generator. Then step 4, we select 250 respondents. So when you write your methodology, don't simply say we selected 250 students. Explain how those 250 were selected. Okay, so now there's another term related to this, and that is the sampling technique. A sampling technique is the specific method used to choose participants from the population. So sampling technique is basically the specific strategy that you use. For example, simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, convenience, purposive, quota, and snowball sampling. So later we will discuss each one. Okay, so why do we have different techniques? Because different research situations require different approaches. So for example, maybe you have a complete list of your population. Maybe you need to make sure that different groups are represented. Maybe the participants are difficult to locate. So you cannot simply choose a sampling technique because you like the name. So you have to ask, does this technique fit my research situation? So now let's discuss another important term, that is sampling frame. A sampling frame is the complete list of all members of the population from which the sample will be selected. Think of it as your master list. So suppose your population consists of all grade 12 students in the school. So what document could contain the names of all those students? That is the registrar's list. Okay, so the registrar's official list of all grade 12 students can serve as our sampling frame. So remember, population is equal to the actual group. Sampling frame is equal to the list used to identify members of that group. So magkakaiba sila. Now let's talk about sample size. Sample size refers to the total number of participants selected from the population. For example, if our population is 1,200 students and we select 291 respondents, what is our sample size? That is 291. So the appropriate sample size depends on factors such as population size, the desired level of confidence, and the acceptable margin of error. So you may encounter formulas such as Slovin's formula or Yamane's formula. Okay, when determining the sample size. So for this lesson, remember the basic distinction. So population size is equal to how many are in the entire population. Then sample size, how many will actually participate. Now let us answer a very important question. Why do we even need sampling? So why not simply survey everyone? Okay, so imagine conducting a study involving 10,000 people. So can you imagine the time, money, effort, and resources required? So sampling allows researchers to conduct studies more efficiently. So it can reduce the time, money, and effort needed. But there is one condition. Okay, the sample must be selected properly. Because if your sampling is poor, even if your questionnaire is excellent, your findings can still be problematic. Okay, so what is the goal? To get a representative sample. Okay, so we want a sample that can provide meaningful information about the population. Class, we come to one of the most important parts of our lesson. There are two major types of sampling. First is probability sampling and the second is non-probability sampling. Okay, so today you need to understand the difference between these two because it will help you choose the appropriate sampling technique for your research. Okay, so let's look at the techniques under each major type. So under the probability sampling, we have four techniques. We have simple random, systematic, stratified random, and cluster sampling. And then under the non-probability sampling, we also have four. So we have convenience, purposive, quota, and snowball sampling. Okay, so don't try to memorize these names immediately. Instead, habang we discuss each one, focus on how participants are selected. So that will make the differences much easier to understand. Let's begin with probability sampling. So probability sampling is a sampling method in which every member of the population has a known and equal chance of being selected. So the key idea here is random selection. Okay, random selection means that the researcher does not simply choose participants based on personal preference. So if there are 1,000 students, each student has a chance of being selected according to the random procedure. Okay, so if I choose only my friends, is that probability sampling? No, because that is not a random selection. So probability sampling is widely used in quantitative research because it can reduce personal bias and can provide a more representative sample. Now, let's compare that with non-probability sampling. So, in non-probability sampling, not every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Participants may be chosen because they are available, because they have specific characteristics, or because the researchers uses judgment. So, for example, imagine I need 50 respondents and I simply approach students who happen to be available. So is everyone in the population given an equal chance? No. So that is non-probability sampling. It's often easier and more practical, but it is more prone to bias. Okay, so probability is equal to random selection. Non-probability is equal to non-random selection. Let us start with our first probability sampling technique, which is the simple random sampling. So the easiest way to understand this is everyone has an equal chance of being selected. Okay, so please read the guided steps silently while listening pa din. Okay, so for example, suppose there are 600 students and we need 150 respondents. So we number all 600 students from 1 up to 600. And then we use a random number generator to select 150 numbers. So the students whose numbers were selected become our respondents. Okay, so what makes this simple random sampling? So ibig sabihin, everyone has an equal chance. Next is systematic sampling. This one is slightly different. So instead of selecting participants completely randomly one by one, we select participants using a fixed interval after a random starting point. So let's use the example on the slide. So step by step, our population is 500. Our needed sample is 100. So we calculate the sampling interval. So 500 divided by 100 is equal to, okay, that is 5. So our interval is 5. So after choosing a random starting number, we select every fifth student. So for example, if the random starting point is 3, we might select 3, and then 8, then 13, 18, 23, and so on. Okay, so why is this called systematic? Because there is a system or fixed pattern in selecting participants. Okay, so simple random is equal to random selection. Systematic naman is equal to every nth member after a random start. Now we have stratified random sampling. So this is very important, especially for school-based research. So in stratified sampling, the population is divided into subgroups or strata before random selection. So for example, suppose our grade 12 population consists of STEM, ABM, GAS, UMS, TVL. So these are different groups or strata. So why might we divide them first? So to make sure every strand is represented. Okay, so after dividing the population into groups, we randomly select participants for each group. Okay, so stratified sampling means divide into groups first and then randomly select from each group. Okay, so if I randomly select 200 students from the entire school without considering their strand, that's simple random sampling. Okay, but if I make sure that STEM, ABM, GAS, TVL are each represented and then randomly select from each, that is stratified random sampling. Next is cluster sampling. This one also involves groups, so be careful not to confuse it with stratified sampling. So in cluster sampling, the population is divided into clusters and entire clusters are selected randomly. So for example, instead of selecting individual grade 12 students, the researcher randomly chooses 4 grade 12 sections. Then the researcher surveys every student in those selected sections. Okay, so are we randomly selecting individual students? No. What are we randomly selecting? Sections or clusters. Okay, so kapag stratified, select some people from every group. Kapag cluster naman, select entire group. Okay, that distinction is very important. Now let's move to non-probability sampling. So our first technique is convenience sampling. So this is probably one of the easiest to understand. Participants are selected because they are readily available. So for example, suppose I need respondents and I simply ask students who are currently present in the classroom. So why did I select them? Because they are available. Okay, that is convenience sampling. So convenient does not automatically mean scientifically best. So it is easy to conduct, but because participants are selected based on availability, the sample may not represent the entire population. Okay, so for convenience sampling, convenience is equal to who is easiest to reach. Next is purposive sampling. Here, the participants are selected because they possess specific characteristics needed for the study. So, for example, suppose the research is about leadership experiences. The researcher decides that only grade 12 student leaders should participate. Bakit? Because they have the characteristics needed for the study. Okay, the researcher intentionally chooses participants because they meet a specific criterion. Okay, so remember the word purpose. Purposive sampling means you select people for a specific purpose or characteristics. Okay, so for a quick comparison, convenience asks who is available. Purposive asks who has the characteristics I need. Class is quota sampling. In quota sampling, the researcher selects participants until a predetermined number from each category is reached. So, for example, suppose the researchers need 100 respondents. The researcher decides 50 males, 50 females, so that is the quota. The researcher continues recruiting participants until each required number is reached. Okay, so what is the important idea here? A specific number from each category. Okay, so don't confuse quota sampling with stratified random sampling. In stratified random sampling, we divide the population into groups and randomly select from each group. In quota sampling, we simply continue selecting participants until the required number for each category is reached. The selection itself is not necessarily random. Final technique is snowball sampling. So this one works differently. So current participants recommend or refer additional participants who meet the study criteria. Okay, so suppose you have one participant who qualifies for your study. You interview that participant and then you ask, do you know someone else who also meets the criteria and might be willing to participate? So that participant refers another person. So that person may refer another. And the sample grows. So why is it called snowball? So think of a snowball rolling down a hill. So it starts small, then becomes larger and larger. So similarly, the sample grows through participant referrals. Okay, so for example, the presentation gives examples involving rare medical conditions or hidden populations. So these are situations where it may be difficult for researchers to identify participants through ordinary sampling methods. Now let us put everything together. So this table compares probability and non-probability sampling. Okay, so probability sampling uses random selection. Members have an equal chance of selection. It is generally less prone to bias, and because the sample can be more representative, results are more generalizable. So it is also commonly used in quantitative research. Okay, and on the other hand, non-probability sampling uses non-random selection. So members have an equal chance of being selected. It is more prone to bias and generalization is more limited. However, it can be useful when probability sampling is impractical. So if my research wants a sample that can better represent the population, which type would generally be preferred? That is probability sampling. Okay, so but remember, the appropriate technique always depends on the research situation. Now we move to one of the most practical parts of the lesson. So you already know the different techniques, but as researchers, the real challenge is how do I choose the right one? So we can follow 6 steps. Okay, so I want you to take note of the step-by-step guide in choosing the appropriate sampling technique. Okay, step 1, identify your population. Step 2, prepare the sampling frame. Step 3, determine the sample size. Step 4, choose the technique. Step 5, select the participants. And step 6, describe the procedure. Okay, so your methodology should allow another research to understand who were your respondents, how many were there, how did you choose them, and why did you choose that method. Now let us examine an actual example of how this can appear in a research paper. So by the way, this is for your research chapter 3. Okay, so all of the topics involved ay para sa chapter 3 ng research paper nyo. Okay, so read the first sentence. The respondents of the study consisted of all grade 12 students enrolled at ABC Senior High School during school year 2026 to 2027 with a total population of 780 students. So what is the population? That is 780 grade 12 students. Okay, so next, using Slovine's formula or Yamane's formula with a 5% margin of error, a sample size of 264 respondents was determined. So what is the sample size? That is 264. Okay, next, the respondents were selected through simple random sampling. So what sampling technique? That is simple random sampling. And then the procedure explains that numbers were assigned to all students listed in the registrar's official enrollment record, and a computer-generated random number generator was used. So what is the sampling frame? That is the registrar's official enrollment record. Okay? And finally, the paragraph explains why simple random sampling was used. So every grade 12 student had an equal opportunity to participate. So helping minimize selection bias and increase representativeness. Okay, so this is what I want you to learn from this example. A good sampling description doesn't simply give numbers. It explains the entire selection process. Okay, now let's test your understanding. So for situation 1, we have 1,000 students. We have a complete list. We need 200 students and we select them using a lottery. So what sampling technique is appropriate? That is simple, random sampling. Okay, bakit? Because every student has an equal chance of being selected and we are using a random method, the lottery. Okay, so we have this complete list plus equal chance plus lottery or random selection that is equal to simple random sampling. Situation 2. So you have an enrollment list. Instead of randomly selecting individual students, you survey every sixth student. So what technique? That is systematic sampling. Okay, bakit? Because we are following a fixed interval. The keyword here is every sixth. Okay, so whenever you see every fifth, every sixth, every tenth, so that is systematic sampling. For situation 3, so you have different academic strands. Instead of selecting from the entire population as one group, you select respondents from each academic strand. So what technique does this suggest? That is stratified random sampling. Bakit? Because the population is divided into groups or strata and respondents are selected from each group. Okay, so remember, stratified is equal to some respondents from each group. Now, for situation 4, we have grade 12 sections. The researcher selects 3 sections and surveys all students in those selected sections. So what technique? Okay, so 3 sections, ibig sabihin, that is under cluster sampling. Okay, bakit? Because the researcher selects entire groups or clusters rather than individual students. Okay, so entire group selected, ibig sabihin yan cluster sampling. So for the last situation, the researcher surveys students who are available during lunch break. So what sampling technique? Nakalagay dyan, who are available during lunch break. So what sampling technique? That is convenience sampling. Okay, very good. Bakit? Because participants are selected based on their availability. Okay, so let's review the 5 quickly. So kapag lottery, that is simple random. So every sixth, ibig sabihin yan, systematic. From each academic strand, that is stratified random sampling. Kapag sinabi naman whole section, that is cluster or cluster sampling. Kapag naman sinabing available, let's say available during lunch, that is convenience sampling. Okay, so before we end, let's review the major concepts. So we have 6 key ideas. So number 1, population. It is the entire group being studied. And then sample, it is the smaller group selected from the population. And then we have sampling. Sampling is the process of selecting participants. Sampling procedure naman explains how the participants were selected step by step. Okay, probability sampling. This uses random selection and gives members a known or equal chance of selection. Non-probability sampling so does not rely on random selection and does not give every member an equal chance. Okay, so if you understand these 6 concepts, you already understand the foundation of your research chapter 3. Okay, so take note of these important terminologies para kapag karoon tayo ng quiz ay madali niyong masasagot. Okay, let's check kung kayo ay ready na. So first, what should we identify? That is the population. And then, determine the sample size. Pagkatapos niyan, choose the appropriate sampling technique. Then after that, select participants, and finally, describe the sampling procedure. Okay, so when you write your research paper, don't simply write, we selected 200 respondents. So that is incomplete. Instead, your reader should be able to understand who were the respondents, how many were selected, what sampling technique did you use, how were they selected, and why was that technique appropriate. So that is what makes your sampling procedure clear and defensible. Right, everyone, that brings us to the end of our lesson on the sampling procedure and the sample. Before we officially end, I want you to remember one simple chain. Again, number 1, population. Second, sample. Third, sampling. Fourth, sampling technique. And fifth, sampling procedure. That's the end of our lesson today. I hope you will be able to apply this sa paggawa ng Research Chapter 3. Again, this is Teacher Jana. Goodbye and God bless.